when we were talking sometimes back. So he expressed his desire to interact with the Faculty of Economics and Commerce. So I thought that it is a very good opportunity for us to invite him. So thank you, sir, for being here, and I welcome you. As you know, this conference is organized by Commerce Department in collaboration with Internal Quality Assurance Cell. So first of all, I congratulate IQAC coordinator, Professor Vinita Tuli, and the convener of this conference, Dr. G. Sivchandar, and his team, and of course, our teacher in charge of Commerce Department, Professor Anjali Gupta, for organizing this international conference on the topic of India's role as a global business superpower, unleashing the power of the Indian business model, Icibm 2024. So it is a good initiative, and in fact, I wish that these kind of initiatives would continue in future also. And one more thing, in fact, there are other members also from economics department in this organizing committee. So both the department, credit goes to both the department. So as you know that our Honorable Prime Minister and Government of India is taking initiative for the Viksit Bharat at the rate 2027, and our Prime Minister has given some target for the Viksit Bharat. So I think this title of conference is clearly shows that how this gathering is going to address the objective of the conference and the idea of Viksit Bharat, so that how India can become a global business superpower, and what are the ideas can be implemented in future for the startups, entrepreneurs, and because in India there are many forms of business model. In fact, somebody is doing business on some jugaad system also. Somebody is doing some innovative, trying some innovative ideas also. In fact, since 2015 we are running here a business incubation center, and so many startups have been supported in past by our college. So we are trying our best, and I think that in today's seminar a new path of research will definitely discussed here, and it will give some new path for future also. So I am seeing all young minds to take India forward with the same idea, and now I wish my best wishes to all the organizers and organizing team for a great success in this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of appreciation and motivation. Now, I'll request the convener of this conference, Mr. Sivachandran ji, to please come forward and share the dynamics of this conference.
Very good morning, one and all present here. Respected Sri Arvind Mishra, retired IAS, Chief Guest of Icibm 2024. Sri Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar ji, President Lava International, keynote speaker of the Icibm 2024, yet not reached here due to traffic issues. Our respected Principal Sir, Chairman of Icibm 2024, with our Punita ma'am, Coordinator of Icibm 2024. Dear conference participants, we extend a warm welcome to each of you for our conference. Your presence and expertise are invaluable as we gather to explore new ideas and strategies in our respective fields. Together, let's engage in insightful discussion, foster meaningful connections, and inspire one another towards innovative solutions. We look forward to your active participation and contribution throughout the event. I'm happy and privileged to present the dynamics of the International Conference, India's role as a global business superpower, unleashing the power of Indian business model, ICIBM 2024. Through this conference, we are trying to address how and when, through in which India is going to be a superpower in the business world. India is on track to become the world's third largest economy in nominal terms within the next decade due to rapid economic growth. However, sustaining this growth is crucial for the well-being of its more than 1 billion citizens. The focus should be balanced economic development, increasing GDP per capita to ensure prosperity for all by 2040. As Principal Sir rightly mentioned, Viksit Bharat developed India Mission 1947-2047, which was we are focusing 2047. The same way, this conference is going to make notable contribution. We are so happy that we have received more than 65 research papers from various streams like business studies, commerce, economics, history, political science, English literature, and Tamil literature, etc. After the peer review of our conference committee, we'll forward it to the journal. It will be published in the UGC Calendar Journal, which is going to be released as a special edition exclusive for our conference theme. In the conference, we have arranged two technical sessions. One is panel discussion, in which subject experts are going to present their perspective toward our conference theme. The panelist, Honorable Professor Mangaleshwaran, Vice Chancellor, Vavuniya University, Sri Lanka, is going to join online. Due to some issues, he couldn't come and join here directly. Professor Devresh Mukherjee, Jamia Millia Islamia, University of New Delhi. Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Managing Director, Standard Chartered Bank. Mr. Purshad Singh, Corporate Legal Advisor, Partner, Co-Chair & Co. And the second technical session, which is going to be happen as a paper presentation, in which faculties and research scholars are going to present their papers in front of the expertise. The people who are going to chair the sessions: Professor Sanjay Thakur from Chitkawa University, Himachal Pradesh; Professor D. Umadevi from University of Delhi; Professor Venkatramaya from University of Delhi; Dr. Kokila Nagri from ERSD College; Dr. Nidhi Bansal from ERSD College; Dr. Balakrishnan from Hansraj College; Dr. Priyanka Kulhari from English Department, ERSD College. Finally, the valedictory session we are going to have Mr. Shaleen Mishra, Ministry of Urban Development and Health, Government of NCT of Delhi. We are looking forward to your active presentation, and once again, I welcome you all on behalf of ICIBM 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva, for acquainting us with the whole day programs, and I hope that we are going to have you with us throughout the day. Now, we are honored that we have with us our keynote speaker, Mr. Rishi Mohan Bhatnagar. So I'd request Professor Ritatuli ma'am to please felicitate sir. Thank you, sir. We are honored with your presence. Now we'll move forward, and I'll take this privilege to introduce to you our speaker, Mr. Arvind Mehta. He has had a distinguished career of more than 38 years of government service, both in the state government of Himachal Pradesh and in the government of India. His nearly 4 decades of hands-on experience includes diverse sectors such as finance, banking, planning, defense, and the list goes on. In November 2020, at the age of 60 years, Sir formally retired as Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. His final tenure as Secretary of the 15th Finance Commission of India gave him a unique work opportunity at the nerve center of India's public finances and federal finance issues. This deep domain experience, along with the Commerce Ministry and Niti Aayog stint, serves as a springboard for him to critically appraise the multiple economic issues which are faced by India in an ever-dynamic developmental and interconnected matrix. Sir has served at the Director Joint Secretary level in Government of India in the Defence and Disinvestment Ministries, Planning Commission and Prime Minister's Office. He was India's key trade interlocutor for all neighboring South Asian countries. Besides the SAFTA negotiations, he was India's chief negotiator for RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, trade negotiations. As Trade Policy Division Chief, Arvind Sir has been India's multilateral trade agreements negotiator also and has shaped India's trade negotiations in World Trade Organization and India-EU FTA, that is European Union Free Trade Agreement. Since Arvind Sir oversaw all export promotion schemes of the Commerce Ministry, cross-sectoral interaction would take place with all export promotion councils of India, like engineering sports, pharma exports, auto, textile, and many more. He also worked closely with all apex chambers of commerce such as FICCI, CII, PSD chamber, etc. on specific industries and export issues. Additionally, Sir has also worked closely on healthcare services exports and project exports for structuring country-specific export strategies and financial support through Exim Bank and insurance support of ECGC. As Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Sir was a member of the Investment Commission constituted by the Government of India, which had Mr. Ratan Tata as chairman and Mr. Deepak Parekh as member. In Himachal Pradesh, Arvind Sir has been responsible for formulating more than 10 budgets of the state government between 1990 and 2009. These opportunities have provided him deep domain knowledge across all sovereign functions, including the interplay between state and central government schemes, infrastructure projects. In June 2022, the Government of India appointed Arvind Sir for 3 years as chairman of the Himachal Pradesh State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, an ongoing responsibility for balancing environmental concerns in the developmental processes of Himachal Pradesh. Sir has also co-authored a book, Reflections on India's Public Policies, which has been recently published in May 2023 and publicly launched by Sri Jagdeep Dhankar, the Vice President of India and Chairman of Rajya Sabha, with a very encouraging foreword also written by him. Sir has also been very active into extracurricular activities. His motto in life has been very simple. Yes, we can make a better world, but we will need to work towards it. And this was the short bio note of Sir which I shared with you all. The list goes on and on. We are really honored to have you, Sir, with us. And now I request you to please come and share your expertise with our faculty and students.
Good morning, friends. It's always very nice to come and spend some time with the students who are going to be the ones carrying the torch of this country in the coming decades. I'm going to try and structure this in two ways because of the paucity of time. I'll take a little time to just share some broad thoughts with you, and then I'll pause, hand over for the rest of the speakers, and I'll be quite happy to sit and listen to everybody. And in the meanwhile, if you have a particular kind of a question or something, you can send it across, and I'll have a look at it, and maybe if we have the time, I'll try and answer your queries if I can. So, the topic, of course, of today's discussion with all of you, incidentally, how many of you are third year students over here? And second year? Okay. First year? Okay. So there's a good
Nikshu. The topic is of the Indian business model, and it's such a large topic that I don't think any keynote speaker can do justice to this broad spectrum. So I think I'm going to concentrate on a few areas. And my mistake, I should have brought my book with you, left it for your library, because there are many thoughts in that book which I'm sure as students of commerce and economics you would have found interesting. But I'll make amends, I'll send a copy across, and those of you who are interested, you can pick up the copy from your library, etc. The Amrit Kal is the term we all hear, and it's basically a term that has been coined by the government of the day to inject a certain amount of, I think, positivity in the Indian growth story. It's not that the Indian growth story wasn't happening earlier. Of course, those of you who are students of economics would have heard Professor Raj Krishna's term of the Hindu rate of growth that happened in the decades after the independence, which was at about 3.5% per annum. And then you steadily saw an acceleration happening post 80s, went up to about 5% or so. And by the 90s reforms, you saw a further injection, and India has been doing at some times 8%, even 8% plus. At other times, it's been doing a long-term average of about 7%. And the hope, of course, of the Indian economy is that we continue to do between 6.5 to 7.5%. Now, the power of compounding, of course, is the power that you would have learned in all your statistics, etc. It may sound as if it doesn't make much difference, whether it's 6 or 6.5 or 7, but over a steady amount of decades, it's as happened in the case of South Korea, China, even Japan earlier, it made all the difference to the per capita incomes of the countries concerned. Now, India, of course, has a further problem that the per capita for India is a much more difficult beast to tame because of the population growth that was simultaneously happening on a large base. In fact, when I was studying in college, we used to always keep hearing about the term of the population bomb, which India is going to face. And there was a lot of pessimism at that point of time that how are you going to deal with this population bomb? By the time I entered service, I was still having these clouds of despair of the population bomb, and it seemed to me that every part of the government policy has to be structured for trying to get a grip on the population dynamics. But somewhere towards the 90 end, that's when the first glimmer came through economic thought, where they started talking not about the drag of population, but they started talking about the demographic dividend. It's a term that your generation will be fully conversant with, the demographic dividend. It was a term which our generation was completely alienated from because we never heard this term during our academic years. It was always the population bomb. But if you look at economic growth stories now, a lot of the economic growth is being explained in terms of the dynamics of the demographic transition theory of population. It talks about the positive tailwinds that come in through a youthful bulge, which works its way into the working age groups, somewhere about, say, 18 to 55, 60. And that's when they say that when that bulge comes, where the dependency ratios come down, that's where the economy gets its real boost to its growth. Now, there are a lot of economists who actually say that there has not been enough emphasis on the periods of transition of different countries, of where they were accelerating in their economic growth, which was actually to be explained by the demographic dividend theory, but was obfuscated in many other issues and being lost sight of. You've got, of course, Kenneth Arrow and others who talk about technology as the driver. But I think there is quite a bit of now confluence of thought that it's not just technology and it's not just population, but a mixture of the two that forms the basis for this acceleration that will happen. In the Indian context, if you look at it, and I'm trying to now rates have come down, estimated to be about 2.1. So India is already below the net that, but because you're going to have the momentum of the couples in the reproductive age groups that will keep coming in, the population, as you all know, will keep increasing. It's expected to go from about 1.4 billion and not stabilize till it has come to about 1.6, 1.7 billion, after which it is expected to stabilize, which is going to happen a few decades down the line. So in a way, if you ask me, India's greatest challenge right now is also to manage this that is still happening. And you heard about the talks about what people call the 3Ds of the Indian economy: demography, diversity, democracy, as the interplay of factors that have to come together to see that we are able to manage the Indian growth story. How does this apply to you as students? I think this is going to be the one tricky part. Your generation as students is the one that's going to be most challenged in this transition. Why? Because you belong to a cohort where India was peaking in number of births, somewhere about 24 to 26 million births a year. And you are a part of that cohort. So what is happening to you as individuals is, even though your skill levels are going to be very good compared to the earlier cohorts, the supply of labor that you are going to bring into the Indian markets is unfortunately going to depress your wages. That's a fact. You go to any field, healthcare, tourism, fintech, finance, banking, the companies over there have an overabundance of candidates to choose from. And as students of economics and commerce, as you know, the price clearing equilibrium is a function of the demand and supply. So it's something which I worry about, that it's your cohort that is going to go through this challenge where there is an overabundance of supply of labor, even skilled labor, and therefore the price clearing equilibrium is going to show wages somewhat depressed compared to maybe future cohorts that will come into the labor markets. And that's the challenge, I think, that we are going to see in the next 2 decades. How do we use this abundant skilled labor in a manner commensurate to be able to propel India's growth story through both consumption and investment? That is the challenge. The transition in some ways has already happened in South India, for instance, and to some extent in West India also, in the sense that their demographic transition has already gone to total fertility rates in the region of 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, which means they are facing a labor shortage. But yet, because India is one, you see a migration happening from other parts of India to the south, to the west, where the jobs are. And in some ways, even though you hear all this talk sometimes about some southern states saying that we are doing very well, and it's the northern states that are a drag on the country's economic growth, etc. You sometimes see some of them actually having been beneficiaries of migration coming in, say, from the eastern part of India, from Bihar, Jharkhand, UP, Odisha, etc., which has added to the profitability of these firms operating in southwest India. And that profitability has meant capital accumulation for them, which has gone into sometimes into capital intensive industries. And even where it's labor intensive, they have been able to take the advantage of, even though that they have passed the demographic dividends in their own respective demographics, but they are drawing upon the demographic dividends of the migration that is happening. Now, overall, this is of course good for India because it keeps India's competitiveness going well in export markets. But it is something which is a challenge for India's regional development that still has to be played out. I was a part of the 15th Finance Commission, and it's a subject by itself, and I wouldn't be able to do justice to it. But what I'm saying is that regional imbalances can cause, in many countries, balkanization. When some parts of the country do very well, some don't, there is a natural precipitous tendency for the better off part to say we are better off if we disassociate. And you've seen this happen as a part of history. So this is where something like a finance commission has huge challenges to try and see how they do equalizations in a manner where the disparities do not grow to become complete fissures in the Indian economy. I'm going to end very quickly because I'm conscious of the time factor, and as I said, therefore I will not be able to do justice to such a vast topic. But let me leave a few thoughts of optimism with you. I know I have scared you with the labor dynamics of it. I concede that. But that's the truth. I mean, it's better to be aware. If you have to create the future, you have to be aware of your past and your present. But your future also has India becoming the workhorse of the world economy. That is also the fact. In the early 2000s, we got the glimmer of that through the IT-enabled services, the business process outsourcing. And very soon, India, because of Y2K, I think you would be conversant with the term, when the switch had to happen from the 19-digit to the 2000 digits of the calendar with 20. The 19K gave an opportunity to India to become actually the workhorse for resetting the clocks for much of the IT-enabled services. At that time, there were many pessimists who said that, oh, you're just creating cyber coolies. You're doing a low-end job in the IT sector. They're using you as some kind of cyber coolies, and this is going to be a dead end once this transition happens. What will India do? That was also the frame of the negative thought process. However, it didn't end with that. There was a steady upstream on the value chain that kept happening. And you saw India sucking in a lot of its engineers and others, business MBAs into this sector, which became a massive labor pool for being the earth is flat kind of theory of Thomas Friedman, where India was working at night for the Western world, especially the USA, on the daylight hours. And they did all kinds of stuff. And they've kept steadily moving up the value chain. So if there is one thing that I learned in the Commerce Ministry, it was that while India should not neglect its manufacturing competitiveness, there is a greater growth story, as Raghuram Rajan now has been claiming. Of course, he's been saying to the exclusion, whereas the others say it can't be to exclusion, of the services growth story. So India is largely going to see buoyancy of what it does in the services sectors. The agriculture sector, as you know, always shrinks. The gross value added as the proportion of the GDP comes down steadily in the case of India from as much as 43%, even 50%, down to about 16, 17% now. The proportion of workforce trapped in agriculture is still very large. Close to estimates of 40% of the labor force is still trapped in agriculture for want of alternative employment and disguised unemployment, therefore low productivity. The manufacturing dream has always been that India should do about 25% of GDP in manufacturing. It has stuck at about 16% over the last decade plus. It hasn't moved, the needle hasn't moved. And it's the services sector that is absorbing the real dynamics of the growth story. The lesson to be learned over there is that if this is where the comparative advantage of India will lie, then India needs to be very savvy in picking up the business opportunities in this sector for the kind of continuous growth that we are striving for. Many of you have heard the term global capability centers. Are you familiar with that term, GCCs? Well, GCCs is basically a further upgrade that has happened of the IT-enabled services, where IT-enabled services were earlier looking at again somewhat lower end of call centers, cyber security, etc. Now they are getting into capability back office work of all kinds of stuff, including for things to be done by the big four in the other countries such as KPMG, Deloitte, Bain's Capital, etc. These are people who are going to be people like you who are able to get into certain of these niche areas, build your capabilities in those niche areas, and become the kind of a solid foundational support to the world economy in a more cost-effective manner. That's where I see it going. And that's where, hopefully, it's my hope that the wage differentials that we will still see in the advanced world and in the third world, namely India, somehow because of our capabilities in the English language, our innovativeness, we are able to get into these areas. But it's not just for the world. India is going to get transformed in productivity also by many of these fintechs, banking service, insurance services, which are going to find more and more nimble ways of meeting the demands of the service sector far more efficiently than was being done earlier. If you go play the stock market today, you have an app on which you can get now T+0 settlements. That kind of efficiency never used to be there. So, in a sense, the productivity is going to keep improving in all these technology-enabled services. Nobody had heard of Swiggy or Zomato earlier, right? Now, what did Swiggy and Zomato do? All that they said was, there is going to be a demand where people don't want to go out to dine or to have a meal. They would rather order in. So why don't we set up a platform which allows people to order at home in an efficient, cost-effective manner, and boom, the demand went up. These became your unicorns. So all these unicorns and other IT-enabled services are working in both the domestic market. You've got Ubers and Olas and Blue Smart Cabs, which are giving you efficient service at low costs. All of this is going to add up to efficiency gains, consumer surpluses. So, some of you need to figure out what is the unmet demand out there in the market, which you will first need to pilot, and from a successful pilot, by meeting that unmet demand, it was even as simple as things like just the platforms for managing pets, managing people's health requirements of attendants, physiotherapists, etc. There are so many unmet demands. Building up local, regional pilots and then scaling up is going to see a lot of efficiency gains in the Indian economy, and we're going to see it move faster and faster. Along with that, of course, you will have discretionary income that is going to go up. There's no doubt about it. Per capita incomes will go up because the demographic bulge is seeing the population growth rate stabilizing. So per capita incomes will inevitably go up with that kind of growth. So you're going to have more consumer discretionary spends, and it will be both on the durable goods sector as well as on experiences. So you're going to have a boom in your travel sector. So you have platforms like Make My Trip and so many yatra.coms and others who are building up on these kinds of booms. So these are these niche areas that are being addressed by technology, and they are scaling up in a manner where they pilot regionally, and hopefully they will go international also. Because if you have a successful model the same way as Uber came into India, you can have other successful models going out of India. I'll stop there. I'll just leave you a last thought which I had kept in my book also, and I thought it's important that I do flag it. I've been saying within the government for a long time that India is playing, if I can use the word stupid, a stupid game in the visa policy. Other countries are petrified of giving an access on the passport visa free. The American passport takes you visa free to practically all the countries. The Japanese passport takes you. In my trade negotiations, if I ever try to ask for the same concession, I would be laughed out of the room because those countries are petrified of what we can say loosely is the donkey. You've seen donkey, that some of you may have seen donkey. It's basically people wanting to escape the labor markets of India, which are so constrained by the population bulge and depressed wages, in being able to provide the same services in the advanced world, working the same hours at much better wages. So obviously people will try and use that route. And obviously these countries, so-called liberal free trade people, don't want to see movement of natural persons. But because they have a visa to restrict even our tourists from going there, the Indian government for a long time has a reciprocal policy saying, oh, your country asks for visas, so we will ask your citizens to also have visas. And that is what I call stupid, because India has nothing to fear from these countries coming into our country for tourism, because they're not going to hang around here for jobs or something like that. So we are artificially depressing our own tourism potential by asking a visa. We should be giving a visa on arrival. We should be giving more of e-visas. We should make the visa process much friendlier, which has been done, by the way, for the NRIs through the OCI mechanism. They can travel visa-free now by just having an OCI card. But if India does that, tourism sector is one of the huge employment multipliers. It's a huge GDP multiplier, and I see no reason why India needs to not change its visa policy to be able to get foreigners to just pick up. When I used to go for even business negotiations, so many of the business communities there would say, you know, we would love to come to your country to do some trade, etc., find out business opportunities of importing stuff. But because of the visa thing, we go to another country where it's much easier to do so. So what I'm saying is we are shooting ourselves in the foot over this visa policy. It's something I've been saying within the government for a long time. And I'm not constrained as a public servant any longer, so I can criticize the government policy on a public platform now. So I'm just leaving the thought with many of you in academics, etc. I was always taught by a chief minister of mine, when I used to always push for something within the government, he would say, I will talk about it to a lot of people. Just keep talking about it, write about it. The more you get a consensus, the faster the policy goes. And that's what a politician was telling me. So unless we speak and continuously ask for changes, we won't get some of the better changes we want. I know I'm constrained. I'll stop here. And as I said, if you are wanting to ask any questions of any kind on the Indian economy, I've kept myself free. I know there are time constraints, so I will not impinge on those. I'll be happy to answer them later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the tone for this conference and for giving a lot of food for thought to the students and scholars sitting here. Now, I'll take this privilege to say a few words about our next speaker, Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar. Just few words, okay.
There's some mobile sign here. First of all, I'm really very sorry. Uh, I didn't start late. That's what I can tell you. It was the traffic and I was stuck in the jam for a long, and that's why I arrived late. But at least I could hear Arvindji. Thank you very much, for your speech. Um, Jha Saab is not here, but Vinita ji, Siva Chandra ji, and I really thank Sonam. She is the one who has invited me. I am not from the commerce background. Okay, I am a technician. I am chairman for the technology panel in India. I am the president for Lava International, the manufacturer of this mobile. This is a mobile which we designed, we manufactured, we are selling, Agni 2. And we sell around 1.5 million mobiles, feature phone every month. Okay, and that's the industry that I belong to, and I'm the chair for the Future Tech panel, technology panel. I'm not from your subject matter. The way sir could handle, I'm not able to even understand to that level. So this is an honest thing. But still I have been called. Okay. And I've been given 15 minutes to talk. So I will. So I usually when I come across students and the young community, I like to start with a very different tone and try to take you to a different level. As per, I'm not talking about the Indian culture or Indian history or mythology, whatever the word we call, but as per what the current British texts tell us, it was around 11,000 years back when the first time the mankind arrived on this earth, or some symbols or some kind of things was shown. But if you start thinking, when was the first revolution took place? Can anybody answer when was the first revolution took place?
Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. When was that?
1891.
1800. Okay. So 1800 was the first revolution, which was the Industrial Revolution, when it started in the West, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, when the Nottingham and the French and everybody started producing cloth and the industry. And when was the second revolution? Second revolution is in the 1990s, when the IT, network, communication, mobiles came. And today we are living in the third revolution. Okay. So it took the mankind approximately 11,000 years to come out of the first revolution. But it took hardly 150 years for the second, and 25 years or less for the third revolution. Okay. Now we'll try to see the similarities and what are the kind of differences that were there. Okay. So in 1800s, when we were under the British rule, we all know this. And there was somewhere in Nottingham, a cloth mill was opening, and there were new things that were happening. Who was telling us here? No one. Who was skilling us here? No one. Who was training us for the stage? No one. So all the spin weavers lost their jobs. Okay? And then we must try to understand one more point, which is the difference. But what is a revolution, and why I am not calling fire or agriculture as a revolution? Because they were inventions. And inventions and revolutions need to be differentiated. So revolution brings three things. First, due to technology, the productivity of anything will move to the nth time. Okay? The society will change and the business models will change. When these three things happen together, then it is called revolution. Otherwise, they are called inventions. Okay. So during the first revolution, the industry revolution, that was the first time there were banks, there were universities, there were books, there were women who came out of house and start working. Okay. Otherwise, during that time, women were not going out. So there was society change. Because of the factory, if the cloth used to take 1 day for 1 centimeter or 1 inch, now there is a productivity of kilometers in a day because of the factory. Okay. The nth time growth. And the third is the business models. The business models were there were currencies, there were trade, there were things that were happening. During the second revolution time, when the mobile came, when the internet and the communication, the IT industry came, you're going to find the three things again happened. And today, it is again happening. Because we are today in the digital technology, when it's not only the mobile, but the machines are talking to machines. Okay? And we are into the era where the machine, the technology is moving. So I'm going to compare these three. So first, we were under the British rule, nobody was teaching us. All these three things happened and people lost their jobs. But in the second time, we had our own government. Okay? But during that time, today's IT revolution or the IT sector growth started during that time. And we were being democracy, laws, educated population, highly English speaking. We were able to utilize that, and today's IT sector is the result of that second revolution. So we were able to cultivate. But now I'm going to ask, who is the CEO of Microsoft and Google? When did they go to the United States? And why did they just stay in India and created Microsoft here and a Google here? And when I start thinking about all those kind of companies and start thinking the topper or the next level, you're going to find them Indians. And majority of them moved from our country to that part of the world during that time. Because the second revolution resulted in creating so many jobs, but people who could have created $1 trillion company were not given that kind of environment and the kind of ecosystem that was required, so they had to run away. They had to find a place. So Silicon Valley or Seattle could bring them, give them those kind of opportunities, and they were able to create today's Microsoft, today's LinkedIn, today's Google, today's Facebook. Okay. But today, with the current government, they are now thinking how they can create an environment where today's young generation can get that ecosystem and that environment so that they can create those unicorns in India. And how can we utilize those things? Okay. So during the third revolution, the 100 unicorns, as sir just mentioned, unicorns. I'm not sure everybody understands what is a unicorn. Yeah, because you're a commerce student, you should. So unicorns, 100 unicorns in India in say first 6 months or first 3 months is a result of that third revolution and the kind of environment that the government has given. So the Skill India, Mudra Loan, Stand Up India, Startup India, such kind of policy decisions that the government had taken, created that environment and created that ecosystem that would help everybody to think on those lines. Okay. So 150 years, 11,000 years for the first revolution, 150 years for the second, 25 for the third, and when is the next? So it is also showing that the human brain is maturing much faster now. And we are going to see every day there is new thing coming. I'm a technology man. Okay? So the virtual reality shows, I'm trying to show many things, quantum physics, and there is a possibility during using the artificial intelligence thing, and I'm sure you must have heard of ChatGPT. They can even write a pure poem. Okay, things which we feel as humans have the command, that we can be more creative. Okay? We feel that we have more creativity, and that creativity I won't be able to bring to a machine. But they can also write a poem. They can also write a book. Okay? So sooner or later, most of the commerce things will be done by machine. Okay? And we need to start thinking that what will be the next step for us? How will we create some new models? How will we create new business things? And how will we create new services and new products? Otherwise, now nobody will tell you that charkha chalaoge, to naukri jayegi. But every time there is a revolution, you need to unskill yourself and reskill yourself. If you will continue with the same skill, you will lose your job. You won't have a job. But it's a time when the new brain, our brains, needs to start thinking about the new kind of challenges, new kind of services. How can I create a unicorn? Correct? So we are in a very different stage. We are not in the time of first or the second, we are in the third, and the fourth revolution should not be taking more than 4-5 years if we call it a new revolution. Otherwise, we'll see it every month, every day. There's a new technology coming somewhere. Earlier, my competition, because I used to head the global digital business for Tech Mahindra, my business used to be competition between Tech Mahindra's kind of competitions with Pro, Infosys, TCS, Infosys, correct? Now my competitor can be sitting in a garage, whom I don't know, who will suddenly come out with a day called WhatsApp, and everybody will be using WhatsApp. And that has started generating new business models. Okay, I just, because it's a business model kind of thought, I just want to clear, earlier there were only two kind of businesses. One which is manufacturing and selling, and second were the services. And that used to be the model till the third revolution started. And the third revolution is when the technology made things talk to each other. Correct? The car will tell you there is somebody else in the front, now stop. Okay? There are cars which will not hit anything because they'll stop you. Because they're talking, they know. Okay? And I can tell you, keep on telling you more and more about the way technology is moving. But this technology growth is going to impact the kind of services and the kind of manufacturing. Slowly, there is a fight that is going on where the manufacturers are moving towards services. Okay? So the GE manufactures engines of the plane. Okay? Now they are not selling engines. They are saying, I am going to sell you an engine with a service. How many kilometers or miles you are going to run, I am going to charge you on that. So I am providing you a service. Because they have sensors because of which they will be able to calculate how much miles this plane has run. So I am changing the business model. The manufacturers are moving towards the service. Philips no more sells the MRI machines. They say you take the MRI machines and I'll take percentage of all MRIs you will do. Correct? So you don't have a capex cost, but it's always an opex cost. And you will keep on generating revenue and you will keep on maintaining it. Okay, so there is no capex cost for the people who are going to put that machine, and they'll continue sharing the revenue. That's the kind of new business models that are coming in the market. Okay. And because of technology, because now the technology guys can do it. Earlier, you all must have seen cars and you must have been buying cars, your families, correct? After you buy a car, have you ever gone to the dealer? No. You go to the service station. You go to the auto part maker. But now the car as a service has started. And you can have a car which will be as a service, you will pay and go. But all the different kind of business models are coming, and you need to start thinking about the kind of business models you are going to have. I'll take another thing and then the last I'll tell you a story. And that's how I like to close the session. I have 7 more minutes, so I'll make sure that I won't take more time. If you start thinking, we are only 3.5, 3.6% of the global GDP, but we are the 18% population of the world. Okay, so we deserve to be at least 18% of the global GDP. Because we have a population of 18%, and unless we are going to take a right, we are not correct, and we are not at the path or not at the place where we should be. So we are the 18% of the population of the world, and still the 3.5% of the global GDP. Unless we are going to reach at 18%, we are not doing justice to our own country. And because pre-independence and even at the time or during the independence, we were having approximately 27 to 28% of the global GDP with only 10 to 15% of the population. That means our country has the capability and our people have those innovative and power to get back to it. Okay. I'll just give you one example of this and then the last of the story. In an IT sector, and I'm sure sir must have taken such kind of review papers from people like us many times. From the IT sector, the global IT spend in the world is $5 trillion US dollars. How much? 5 trillion. And as per the NASSCOM site, the amount of system integration IT export which we do is can you tell me how much? It's approximately $180 billion. And $180 billion out of 500 trillion is what percentage? 3.7, 3.8. Okay? That means what we call and patter back as the IT hub of the world, we are just doing 3.5% of the total IT spend. Is it alarming? And we need to reach to 18%. I'm just talking about one industry. And we need to start getting into each and every industry and see how each and every industry we are going to reach to the 18%. From the IT sector, then where do this 4.8 trillion goes? Correct? So every mobile you buy, there's an Android in it. And we pay license to Android to Google. For every laptop you buy, there's a Microsoft Windows. For every laptop you buy, you pay to Microsoft. For every Apple Macintosh, you pay to Apple. And you start finding these. That 4.8 trillion is going out of our country because the base platform on which all of these are made are from somewhere else. Unless we'll go into that level, we can never move from current 3.7, 3.8 to 18%. And that's the way where that can happen only when the academic research can be utilized by the industry. When IIT Madras came out with the indigenously built Bharat operating system called Bar OS, and they developed it around 2-3 years back. But there was no one in the country who was ready to put it on their mobile or a laptop or a tablet. And unless we do it, we can never compete with the Androids of the world. And that's what as Lava, now we have a Bharat operating system implemented Lava mobile, which is designed and manufactured here. And we are trying, okay, because nobody buys my mobile if the WhatsApp won't work. Correct? I am a businessman. I sell my products. So unless all the apps start working, my customer won't buy. They don't care about Android or iOS or Bharat OS. They need their apps should work. The YouTube, the payments, everything should work. And that's what is happening right now in IIT Madras. So they are taking 500 of our mobiles. Bharat OS is implemented, and all the apps are getting run. And simultaneously, my reliability testing team is testing whether the performance of camera, performance of battery, performance of every other component is working correctly or not. So NEP 2020, which you all must have heard, is talking about a lot of internship. And you all must have been asked to कि हाँ internship करनी है 2 महीने की 4 महीने की ये करो वो करो. But is the industry ready? Okay, are we ready to take you as interns? When the NEP 2020 people must have made that, and I was part of it, so I also was. Have we prepared the industry that now they should be geared up? That these many students will be coming to you for internship. We didn't do. So there will be a challenge, but there is a gap that has to be filled. So there is a need for at every level, the students or academia needs to work with the industry and see how these two can combine together. Otherwise, most of the research, there were 39,000 research that were happened in last year, 2023. 39,000. How many impacted GDP? None. How many impacted social life? None. So most of those investments done on those 39,000, you called me. So I'll speak. Most of the investment done for the 39,000 research papers, I don't know how will they be utilized for the GDP growth of the society. But please try to do that. If you do some research, try to do that can be utilized. So last is a story. Because you have called me for the Indian business model. So there was a shop, किराने की शॉप थी जिसमें सामान मिलता था और वहाँ एक छोटी सी बच्ची आई 10 रुपए और एक कागज लेके और उसने कहा दुकानदार का जो वर्कर खड़ा था कि मम्मी ने कहा है पूजा है 10 रुपए में सामान दे दे. वो लिस्ट लंबी थी. उसने कहा 10 रुपए में सामान नहीं आएगा, तुम जाओ और पैसे लेकर आओ. तो उसने कहा नहीं हमारे पास 10 ही रुपए हैं. आपको ये मैं लिस्ट दे रही हूँ, आप मुझे पंडित जी बैठे हैं, आप जल्दी से मुझे दे दीजिए। तो अंदर उस दुकान का मालिक बैठा हुआ था, वो देख रहा है कि एक छोटी सी बच्ची उस जो उसका काम करने वाला उससे कुछ बात कर रही है। वो बाहर आया, उसने क्या हुआ बेटे, क्या हुआ? उसने कहा मंदिर में पंडित जी बैठे हैं, मम्मी ने कहा ये सामान ले आओ, ये लिस्ट है और ये 10 रुपए है मेरे पास। मैं 10 रुपए, चलो ये तो बहुत है। उसने धीरे 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 छोटी छोटी पुड़िया बना के उसको पैकेट दे दिया और उसने कहा लो और चले जाओ। ये है इंडियन बिजनेस मॉडल, जिसमें इमोशंस भी हैं और एथिक्स भी। हम सब प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी और कैपिटलिस्टिक चाहते हैं, मगर हमारे बिजनेस मॉडल में एथिक्स भी है और इमोशंस भी। That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom and throwing light on this new dimension of Indian business. Now, because of the shortage of time, we'll be moving to the next session, and for that, I'll be inviting my colleague, Mr. Ravinder Pant, to please take over the stage. And I hope that in the coming panel discussions and in the paper presentations, we are going to really deliberate upon all these ideas which have been discussed here by our speakers. Thank you so much, and over to Mr. Ravinder now.
I request all the participants to please be seated. We are starting our panel discussion. A very good morning to everyone assembled here. I, Ravinder Pant, Faculty Commerce Department of this college, delighted to have this privilege of taking you through the panel discussion of this international conference on India's role as a global business superpower, unleashing the power of Indian business model ICIBM 2024. First of all, I would like to offer a warm welcome to all our dignitaries, distinguished speakers, participants, colleagues, and students. Through this conference, we try to unleash the power of Indian business model, the opportunities and challenges to introduce in the global market. Also, this conference is going to make a way to introduce the opportunities to formulate the business model as a global successful business model. In this upcoming technical session, we are blessed to have eminent speakers who will enlighten us on the topics like social intelligence, human resource management practice and policies, legal and corporate practice, banking, financial sector, and a lot more. So let's unveil this technical session by introducing our esteemed panelists. First we have Professor Debarshi Mukherjee sir. He is an alumnus of Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan and Banasthali Vidyapith, Rajasthan. He is a professor in the Department of Commerce and Business Studies at Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He was a full professor and head of the Department of the Business Management, Tripura University, and also the founding head in charge of the Department of Tourism Administration. He has been granted an innovation patent on the utility model titled An Adaptive Message and Student Online Learning System from the Federal Republic of Germany. He has been nominated as an expert for research project evaluation for 22-23 by the University Grant Commission, New Delhi. He has also been nominated as a drafting committee member to prepare the vision document 2047 for the government of Tripura. Along many national, international conferences, he has many accolades to his account. And now I would like to request Arvind sir to please felicitate Debarshi Mukherjee sir. Arvind sir.
Come.
Now we have Sri Purushar Singh. Purushar sir is a multidisciplinary lawyer with more than 14 years of experience in advising domestic and foreign clients on merger and acquisition, infrastructure development and finance, investment, real estate, stressed asset acquisition and corporate and debt restructuring. He has managed several market deals, including a few financing and cross-border merger and acquisition transition that many firsts in India. He regularly advises clients from diverse sectors, including energy, manufacturing, financial services, real estate, IT and ITES, etc. Several prominent global players regularly seek his advice in navigating the complex and dynamic Indian policy landscape. Purushar sir graduated from NLU Jodhpur in the year 2008 with an honors in international trade and WTO studies. I request Professor Vinita ma'am to please felicitate Purushar sir. We have Mr. Sanjeev Mehta sir as our third panelist, Managing Director, Standard Chartered Bank. With having 28 years of experience in banking, he is a seasoned and passionate leader who drives sales growth, client satisfaction, and team performance in the transaction banking sector. His mission is to provide innovative and tailored solutions to corporate and institutional clients across South Asia, leveraging the expertise in cash management, trade finance, and working capital optimization. He is working with Standard Chartered Bank, a global and diverse organization that shares his values of sustainability, inclusion, and excellence. I request Professor Uma Devi ma'am to please felicitate Sanjeev sir. And we are honored to have our fourth panelist. Our fourth panelist who is joining us virtually on the online mode, Honorable Professor Thampu Mangaleshwaran. Welcome, sir. He is the Vice Chancellor, Vavuniya University, Sri Lanka. Professor Thampu Mangaleshwaran assumed duties as the first Vice Chancellor of the University of Vavuniya on 13th July 2021. He is an alumnus of University of Jaffna, Pardenia and Madras. He served as temporary lecturer in 1997 to 1999 period at the Southeastern University of Sri Lanka. In addition to the academic qualification, he is a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Sri Lanka. He joined as a lecturer in 1999. Professor Mangaleshwaran has published more than 17 research papers in national and international journals and presented more than 27 research papers at the national and international conferences. He has many accounts, many awards and like research papers in the national and international conferences. Welcome, sir. Now I gave this. I would like to invite.
Thank you very much.
She was.
So, due to time constraint, I would like to invite Purushar Singh, sir. Kindly make a note of short points so that we can. So, I would like to call all three panelists on stage. Please be here.
So please. you for having me over. Had it not been for the session, we would not have bumped into. So, I mean, it's such a serendipitous meeting. Also, the words that were shared, it has left a mark, indelible mark, especially the words of a person who's been a pioneer in the industry in shaping the policies that govern India. And at the end of the day, the policy and the regulatory landscape provides the necessary impetus that drives growth. So the reason I wanted to start with this remark, uh, there are quite a few drivers. And if we were to underline the central theme that has been running through the various speeches that we listened to, we were honored to listen to, there is a central theme running. There are two central themes running. Number one is, of course, the fact that India is poised for growth. We appreciate the big strides we've taken in all sectors, in all departments, all avenues. At the same time, there are so many challenges and lacuna that remain unanswered. So we have to have a holistic view of not just a very bright future, a very rosy picture that we are. Sorry. This happens. I mean, this is when technology. We take aid of technology. It can also it can also interfere, but that's all right. So I would want to start with something that Mr. Mehta pointed out. There used to be a time, and he used the term demographic bulge. Is that a population bulge, rather? How we have moved away from the story that in future India's population story will be its biggest hindrance towards achieving its full potential, to a stage where we realize that perhaps population is going to be one of the biggest drivers of change. What kind of population, of course? I mean, the erstwhile population and the guest we had amongst us, Mr. Bhargava, he's a technocrat, and he touched upon certain salient items, for instance, the technological growth and how upstreaming skill of upstream. As you can see, I don't get invited to often, so I'm not used to handling mics, but thank you. So there are, okay, so let me recalibrate. There are positive experiences. We are amidst a success story or a development story that India has not experienced in eons. At the same time, considering the geopolitical uncertainties, the scale at which black swan events arise and happen and have the potential of disrupting entire value chain, not just the entire value chains, but the way world operates, transacts, commercial documentations are structured, financial documentations are structured, and we have an industry expert. I mean, I have had the good fortune of sitting through certain negotiations, dealings, and financial transactions, which I inked in his presence, and I had the luxury of picking his brains on certain salient items, especially the financial sector reforms that India and the government of India wants to spearhead to catapult us from the current developing stage to a full-fledged developed nation. I mean, of course, these are ideas and dreams that guide us and keep us awake at night, but at some point in time, we have to address the lacuna that prohibits us, also restrains us or keeps us from achieving a goal that we're so destined to achieve. I believe that every person who's had the opportunity to speak before me meant something and deserve to be here. Just us. I mean, if you were to find a Waldo, it's us. Why is it? What's a lawyer doing here? The answer is pretty simple. At times we've seen ourselves, found ourselves at places where we facilitate change. be it in form of policy initiatives. The draftsman most usually will be a lawyer somewhere sitting in a far called dungeon corner. Of course, we are the translators of policymakers, legislators, think tanks, technocrats, bureaucrats like Sir. The idea is to ensure that one department is not overlooked while we initiate policy revisions pertaining to one particular sector. What I'm trying to say, trying to get to, is at times we've seen in the Indian context that whenever an initiative is taken, let's take for instance press note 2, for instance, and let's take an example, and we know that lava at a point in time benefited. At the same time, it was seriously disincentivized. And it happens the case with so many technology companies in India. India has realized that there is a homegrown domestic market that needs to be safeguarded. And how do we safeguard that market? We incentivize our local producers, manufacturers, we incentivize them through PLI schemes, we give them GPI schemes. There's so many sort of incentives to allow manufacturers in India to become more cost competitive as well as quality conscious, so that we are actually able to become a good substitute for products that are generally available, not only in the Indian market but globally. And that's the way how we can reduce our dependency on imports and move towards a more balance of trade, at a balance of trade scenario where our exports far oversee imports. And this is where we should be progressing at. Otherwise, all the matrices that we throw around, GDPs or purchasing power, parity, they'll at the end of the day just be yardsticks. So the idea is the government looks at certain things and it tries to adopt a measure. At the same time, it can have a detrimental effect in other departments. Let's learn from examples. For instance, India wanted to encourage growth, development, and manufacturing in smartphones. So it launched PLI schemes. It did the same for instance, energy sector companies, because India wants to, by 2030, achieve this glorious dream of achieving around 300 gigawatts of commissioning of renewable energy. And this will only happen at the back of real renewable energy and sustainable projects developing in India. So to ensure that, or rather to ensure that it happens, the government of India introduced a lot of schemes, PLI schemes. However, at the same time, India tried to close its border, and this is kind of an anti-dumping or a countervailing measure to ensure that goods and commodities from outside world that were shoring up on India's borders at a lesser cost do not drive our Indian manufacturers out of business. This was the idea. However, what was in reality that transpired is totally in contrast. So our manufacturing story took a hit. Our commissionings in terms of total renewable energy that displaced brown energy, that took a hit. So the idea is that we must have a more concerted effort. For instance, there are two major regulatory, monetary, and fiscal, if I were to say, SEBI being the market regulator. Also, we have RBI that looks at the financial market. At times, we've seen that there are measures taken by RBI that does not sit or augur well with SEBI, and vice versa. For instance, we've had, and this is an age-old issue. We've seen that to avoid round tripping or greening of NPAs. I'm sorry, I'll be using a few terminologies that perhaps do not belong in the general. They are not thrown around in general discussion parlance, but people who, if this resonates with, they will appreciate the fact that while we take initiatives and we try and drive policy and we try and implement certain regulatory changes, we are not able to drive the actual change because we lose sight of the larger picture. And the larger picture is a holistic and a sustained development. It is not only the numbers and the decimals in our GDP, but also the quality of growth that we are delivering. Is our growth sustainable or not? I'm just to cite you an example. There is a word thrown around, Ubuntu, I'm sure you must have heard of. There was an anthropologist in Africa who tried to make a social experiment, who wanted to conduct a social experiment, and he called a bunch of kids in an African village. And as an incentive, he pointed to a tree where he had left a cask with condiments and food items and whatnot, chocolates. And he asked the kids, and the instruction was pretty simple. At his action, whenever he makes an action, the kids have to just run to the tree, and whoever is the first will get the entire basket. To his surprise, when he pointed for the kids to run, all of them, instead of just one person running, all of them, they held hands together and they reached the tree and they took the basket. When the kids were prompted and the anthropologist asked, what prompted you, all of you, to just hold hands and get there? And the answer was pretty simple, so innocent but so hard hitting. The kids mentioned, how can all of us be happy when one of us is sad? And this is the underpinning idea behind driving a holistic growth. We cannot leave certain stratas of the societies unattended while one strata, fills its coffers. And this is the reason why the agencies, organizations, both in public and in the private realm, must come together and in a concerted manner try and achieve the growth story that that we wish to achieve. There are a few items that do we have some time left? A couple of minutes? 2 minutes? All right, I'll try and summarize. So just if we were to enumerate the growth drivers, number one perhaps would be academia, and we're blessed to be in such a august company of teachers and students, because as the custodians of our collective consciousness, the drive must emanate from the grassroots level, and I believe this is the grassroots level. Number two, of course, are technocrats and industrialists, because, and we were again blessed to have some of them here. We understand their pain items, their pain points. We also understand what incentivizes them, what presents more lucrative opportunities for them. We have government agencies, and of course the laws and policies that provide the entire backdrop over which our growth story possibly would sustain itself. There is a concept of, and this is again taking a leaf from Mr. Mehta's book. He pointed to the fact that real change only happens once we perceive that there are certain shortcomings. Once we acknowledge that there is certain things missing, only then we try and improve upon it. There is a similar concept of devil's advocate or 12th man. It's an Israeli concept where, sorry, the 10th man concept, which, I mean, the idea is this: if there are 10 people seated in a room and 9 have taken a decision to move ahead with an agenda, that it is the duty and the obligation of the 10th man to dissent, so that he can find the chinks in the armors, or he or she can figure out what are the issues with the agenda or the program that we want to deploy. This is what we need. This is the approach that we need in India. Rather, a steamrolling approach where one arm of the government does not speak to the other arm of the government, although I do not want to be a naysayer to policy makers, but the idea here is we can do better in this department. Our agencies, organizations can collaborate at a much more efficient, at a much more detailed and a holistic manner, and I believe through cooperation we should be able to achieve our sustained development plans and agenda that we have in mind. Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, a very good afternoon. To already that cloud which is thinning out, I could see that, and nobody wants to listen hours together. I understand that. But unfortunately, we are stuck in the same room, and I have the mic. So I made a very elaborate presentation, but then I changed. That's the way we evolve. And I did not take much time, but there are a few points which I would like to bring to your notice if you have not noticed it already. So as a teacher, I believe it's my responsibility to share what I believe is to be the truth that I do in my classroom and wherever I go. So I'd like to first thank Arvind sir for setting that tone for the day, and I myself have been quite instrumental in policy making in the government sector, because for 7 years I was in North Tripura assisting the Chief Ministerial Secretariat for making the policies and all. I agreed almost all points which Arvind sir has said, but a slight note of disagreement comes from the fact that although we talk about population dividend, but also you must have studied one economic concept, that disguised unemployment. That we cannot overdo, and we cannot write off. And the reflection what comes from when the companies come and talk about the placement scenario, unemployability factor, then the students that churn out of the colleges, the companies find it difficult to employ all of them. Why can't all be placed? I'm not talking about good colleges like yours. There are, thousands of universities which are churning out, lakhs of students every year. The basic difference is that the kind of skill. So I tell my students to you also before I speak about the agenda, look at yourself or look within yourself and find the skill which you can vouch upon. You may not be knowing 20 things, but if you are an accountant, how good you are. If you are a technocrat, how good are you in your trade, in your skill, in your game. If you aren't, then perhaps you are heading towards a very bleak future. So I'm setting the red flag here. And as we come to the theme of this conference, it talks about Indian business model, and I'll have to pick up from what I think Mr. Rishi just now had left us. He has given a very interesting idea without naming it. Today we talk about one very classic model of business which is called servitization. Now that is slightly different from the servicing as per se as a model. Now servitization comes, the genesis you have to see, because we as academic researchers go back to the history, comes from the fact of social intelligence. Because today we all are so engrossed with AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, OpenAI and all. I think we almost worship Sam Altman rather than our own respective god and goddesses. The point is, in 1920, I'll take a little bit of theoretical aspect. There was one gentleman called, Edward Thorndike, who came up with the idea of social intelligence. And in 2006, Daniel Goleman brought this surface over again. So it took up quite number of decades to people realize that we are humans. And as he concluded his talk, I was listening about emotions and all. We all talk about design thinking as an approach. We talk about, startups and all. Know one thing, by the authority of having established a complete TBI myself, startups and TBIs are completely different ideas. Where the business is generated, the logic, the model. Now, servitization model, I thought I made a presentation on that, but I think I'll ask Dr. Siva to share it with you to look at it. I give you two examples. There is an airport in Netherlands, Schiphol Airport. I think you can Google it, find out. Philips owns the lighting solutions. Now, these days we are talking about circular economy. That is the reduce and reuse of the economical component. So there are LED, like we are having LEDs fixed here, they are glowing and giving us light. So in those airports, you can maybe ask, what is the big deal about it? Okay, fine, Philips takes care of it. But what Philips does, others do not, they do not charge for the equipment. Philips as a company owns them all. So if one light is damaged, they strip the good parts out of it, harvest it, and continuous the cycle is going on. And this model is not an Indian model. Even dates back, if I'm talking about somewhere in early 90s when the fighter jets were being made, there was a company, Armstrong Siddeley, that is the Bristol Siddeley aircraft manufacturers. They had made a very classic aircraft engine, fighter jet, Viper engine. So what they had done, they said, okay, Mr. Pilot, you don't have to bother about the efficiency and the demurrage or breakage or damage of this. You only concentrate on flying. We'll take care of the rest. So I own my engine parts and I'll manage it. Volkswagen, there are plenty of examples out there. Volkswagen, they have started the car rental services. I think what Rishiji was talking about, the company is Volkswagen, who have gone into a car. So we have moved beyond the days of Uber and Lyft or Ola. So now what is happening in that is we are actually giving credence to the human intelligence by the way of empathy. So what you would need? We need light. We need speed. See, the necessity has come to the forefront now. So tell me one thing, how many of us sitting here do need a car? We need a faster mode of transport. Correct me if I am wrong. You do not need a tube light, you need the light to look things brighter. So that's the way the transitional economy has surfaced, to look at your needs more than ever and concentrate on fulfilling them. The two-pronged approaches that could be beneficial right here. First, there are kind of Me Too products are available. So what is happening? For example, I give a name of a company, Xerox, almost synonymous with photocopy. Now, this company has moved from their hardware printing, paper printing to document management. Their devices right now scanning their document, the same photocopy machine or the scanner machine is capable of multiplying it, coloring it, sending it over email, faxing it to a different department, and if you do not want, you can keep it for record for months together. As we will require, you can get a printout of it and make use of it. So what I am doing, I am not allowing any in between elements to sneak in and offer in lieu of services and charge money out of it. So I am bundling my products and services together, so that the manufacturer finds a way to survive on a sustainable basis. Also, they are removing, for example, very classic example, we all have different machines at home which require servicing, RO machines, washing machines. Now let's say you get a service engineer to repair your device. Fine, even if it comes from the company. The service engineer does some faulty job at your place. Who do you blame? Honestly, that engineer, the company. That is exact the point. That's the pain point. Companies don't want to do that. And you will not blame the company if the product is owned by them, managed by them, and you only need clean clothes out of it. So do you understand the shift that has taken in terms of consumption pattern, the behavioral part? This is the social intelligence diamond Goldman has thought about. It is, and by definition, social intelligence talks about using shared resources. Whatever you have, I'm just going to share it. And if you look at Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, and there are so many theoretical parts of that, I'm going to bore you with that. Primary objective, and what we are trying to harness here, we should concentrate and look at, have a very clear idea, is that what you need, if you are able to specify, companies are there. Even there are latent needs which you are unable to express explicitly. So companies are there who took note of it and they walked upon it. Just before I conclude, I give you the future of entertainment right in front of you. So I believe at this age, because I asked one of my students that what is the source of entertainment? He said Netflix and chill. I do not know what chill means, but Netflix I know. Now, I do not know how many of you have been to Second Life. I mean, not in literal term, as a product, I think. Sorry. Second Life is another AI tool actually. That used to be there long back, 4 or 5 years back. So where you could, impersonate a person like Avatar, and you can, do whatever you want to play with somebody, you want to shoot somebody, you want to, dance with somebody, you can do that. So this is the next entertainment. With merging with news, the AI televisions are going to give. For example, there is some, sports is going on. So you want to be in the cricket match, you have a subscription for it. You wear the glasses and you can be in the stadium right there virtually and enjoy every single ball of it as if giving a perfect flair of being in the stadium. If you have the augmented reality capacity with you, you can play in that stadium also. And companies are making provisions for that. This is what the future of. So that means we had an inherent need. I am not picked up an Indian squad because perhaps I play far more than them. So they did not take me up. But my latent need is already there. Why can't I be in that ground of playing sport with my favorite players? It's not about the online game I'm talking about. It's the virtual reality I'm talking about, which is there. So latent need is captured in the social intelligence domain, which is far, far superior than so-called AI capabilities, and then integrating with the business model of servitization. That's the future for us. That's the model is going to be there. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for calling me here, Professor Siva, Dr. Siva. Thank you very much, Mr. Mehta, Arvind sir, to stop by to listen to me. Honestly, I'm not, I would say, such a scholar, well-read person, but you've really given me a very big honor by stopping by to listen to me. But, Mr. Mukherjee has left us with a very important note. Mukherjee साहब 15 मिनट और माफ किए तो VR आपने जो बोला है ना उसका मैं स्टार्टअप शुरू कर रहा हूँ तो आप 5 मिनट सुन के जाएंगे आपको जानने नहीं दूंगा क्योंकि I want your feedback and I'm going to connect with you and that's going to be my next job. I'm announcing on this stage I'm going to leave banking after 28 years. I'm going to get into a startup world and exactly that I'm starting. So just give me 2 minutes. Guys, I know we've been, I'm not sure boring you guys, but honestly, when I'm hearing from here, seeing you guys, मेरे को अपने college के दिन याद आ गए. I don't know how many of you know what I do. I'm a managing director, but I don't know how many of you know where I started from. I started as a minus of banking, which is a DSA agent selling cold calls, pay, saving on current account, which is way back in 95-96. I'm not a learned person like all of these guys sitting next to me. I've just done basic BCom honors from Deen Dayal Upadhyay College. It was not even a known college. It was the second or the third year student. कहीं और admission नहीं मिली. 65% marks I think. Or I passed out my graduation in 3rd division. I don't want to talk here something which I don't believe in. What I believe in is exactly the story of 3 idiots. If you know, and I am trying to summarize each one of these scholars I've talked about, is if you actually know where you're standing, if you actually know that you're not worth what you can do in some of those IIT, IIMs can do, you need to know what you can do. And if you can find that sweet spot early in your careers, early in colleges, or maybe hitting the jobs, that's the right way to start. 95, 96, trust me, every single person you were looking around, मेरे आसपास, यहाँ वो कंप्यूटर कोर्स करके BSc कंप्यूटर साइंस करके they were graduating, or IITims or engineers or doctors was the only profession. My dad had a successful business, but he told me I'm the only son. He said, boss, I'm not getting into my business because you're not worth getting into the business. That was the first and the biggest झटका in my life. कि बहुत अगर आप तुम्हारे father तुम्हारे को business में ले रहे तुम्हारे को खा के. And that was a turning point in my life to say that what can I do? I was worth nothing. And when I went back to realize I worked in a corrugated boxes company, गत्ते के डब्बे बनाए. I went into telecalling, and I went into computer science in terms of I was doing a computer course from NIT type of college, but I got into computer coding. I didn't like it, and I finally ended up in banking. The only thing I'm trying to summarize here is Mr. Arvind Mehta talked about what is going to happen. Jobs might not be there for all of you. In my view, if you find your skill, if you find your domain, if you find your expertise in that, there's jobs for everybody. As a banker today, I hire IITims left, right, center. My entire team is full of the top blue chip organizations. But it doesn't mean that I don't hire vanilla graduates. I still have a combination of those people. And the only reason for hiring that is because they are domain expertise or they put in that kind of effort, extra effort to make it happen. I just wanted to actually get you guys to do a small exercise with me. And I'll try and summarize after that, maybe another 2 minutes with your example. But can I ask you guys to raise your hand? All of you. Sir Mehta, sir, please. All of you. Move it like this. Bring it down. Take your left hand up. Take it like this. Okay? Bring it down. I'm just getting you guys to be more hungry before lunch. Okay? But just get this right hand up again. Move this finger with the thumb. Take it to your chin. How many of you got the chin? That's good. Very nice, thank you. But how many of you got it? 5, 6 of you? Okay? This is what I say is what India was talking about. Hey guys, India is a great country, come. India is a great thing, please come. Nobody was listening. Because people were following, like an example that 9 people in a room, the 10th one has to follow that. Right? Because everybody was going to China. Let's follow. Let's go to China. I've been going to the global markets to get investments for India. Trust me. Every single day in every new country, going and meeting clients, and they used to say, sorry, India is out of scope. We have no plans for India. The last 18 years, country by country, clients by clients, we've gone and met. Are you having plans to expand in India? They used to say, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 15 years from now. And today is the day that they actually call us to say, hey guys, why did you come in and tell us what all can I do in India? What is this PLI incentive scheme? What are these schemes and how can I invest more in India? So with this example, I'm just trying to tell you guys is that there's nothing which is gloom and doom. It is our time. People like us, I could have easily gone abroad. I could have settled in some country. I could have done global jobs. But we kept ourselves in India because we wanted to see this time, which is what I'll say, what Sir has said, a good time is coming in for all of us. It's a great time that all of you guys, in my view, Arvind Mehta sir and the likes of him, many other bureaucrats have done and put us on a pedestal, which is what I'll say, a pedestal of growth. This is a moment where you can create opportunities and create businesses. Create startups, say in banking, I was supposed to talk about banking, I could talk about 100 different things that I want to have as a startup who can come in and support because a corporate needs it. but I don't get fintechs to be able to do that. I don't get companies who are thinking like that. So my only request to you guys is just start getting into the industry, start getting into the domain, start getting to learn or understand where's the problem statement, where's the bug, and then start coming back to see what can I solve, how can I solve. With that approach, in whichever industry that you're in, you'll find your space. And everything is changing, everything is getting simplified, thanks to technology, thanks to AI, thanks to everything that you can talk about. So with that, because the industry model is changing, everything is going through a change, there's an opportunity for you to actually place your product, because you will help and simplify that change. So that's what I just wanted to talk about more from a talking standpoint. But just coming back to sort of what you're saying, we will be, as Standard Chartered, we also have SC Ventures, Standard Chartered Ventures, which is where we start or incubate new startups. And we build on those startups as ideas within the bank. We nurture those ideas, we get into a funding phase, we present it to the board, it gets funded, and then we build that startup. So I've personally been involved with about 3+ startups, and they're doing exceedingly well in the bank or as in the industry today. The fourth one we're talking about is on the VR. We just launched Vaishno Devi as a darshan on that VR. So if you go to Vaishno Devi, whoever goes to that part of India for the annual whatever pilgrimage, can see the virtual darshan from the old Kufa. Whoever knows that old cave is always shut, but old cave has what all is shown by that virtual reality. So it's not only about going to the pilgrimage, we are connecting that to the travel in terms of building cities, building virtual malls with virtual shopping. And it will also have a situation where if I walk into a mall and I walk into, let's say, a Hugo Boss store, Hugo Boss would know me that, okay, he has a XXL size. And the inventory which will be available would be only of that color and size, which will be what fits me or is of my, I would say, of my interest. It's not going to be anything which is all that other tracks which is going to help me do anything. Further to that, we are building, with the e-commerce, like a virtual mall. We are building entertainment. So your football playing thing with all the stars in the virtual reality would actually be a reality. We signed up with in fact I can't talk about it, but we signed up with some of the global big entertainment companies. YouTube's second largest kids content developer is an Indian company. We signed up with them. They're the Asia's largest and global second largest kids content providing company. So you'll have that content available on that. So what I'm trying to say is that when you say about entertainment, the only thing I'm trying to link it is the entertainment is not going to be about only Netflix, but all of this virtual reality coming in together with all, which is Netflix and all, plus of course you want to play there. So I just wanted to tell you that yes, that is where the future is headed. That is where some of the corporates are thinking, corporates are investing, and startups are coming in. So anybody, in fact, who's interested to look at beyond banking, how to connect with corporates, how to solve for it, how to get into fintechs, how to do some things, I'll be happy to connect with you guys. Send me a LinkedIn invite. Saturday morning, first half, I invest in meeting people. So you can meet me in one of the coffee shops, which is what I do on every Saturday morning. So happy to be connected. With that note, thank you very much. And thank you, sir, for staying back. Thank you.
क्या करें